Hey all, Binks here, and we have an incredibly exciting new OTA that is going to change so many staple cards. There are 7 card changes, and I haven't done one of these in a while, but I wanted to give you my just kind of like unfiltered thoughts about how these cards are going to change, if I think it was warranted within the meta, and just really how I think things are going to happen now that there's these big changes. And the first one, and the one that everyone's going to be talking about, is Loki. It used to be a 4 energy 5 power card that transformed the cards in your hands the cards in your opponent's deck and gave them -1 cost. Now it is a completely different card. Loki decks are not the same that they used to be ever. Loki is going to be used completely differently. He's now a 3 energy 5 power. It says on reveal, replace your deck with your opponent's starting deck and give those cards -1 cost, and you draw a card. So now it affects your deck as opposed to the cards that you actually have. So this old way of playing Loki where you'd add a bunch of cards to your deck, you'd Loki, and then you get this huge flood of these cheap cards is gone, and now you kind of have to draw those cards a bit more fair of a fashion. You'll start with 2 of them because you play it, you draw one, and then you'll draw one your next turn, and then you can kind of use them. So Loki used to be a deck, right? Like Loki used to be this kind of deck, very like occasionally be used as like a splash card into some decks. There was like some Phoenix Force variations. I used to run like a Galactus Loki that I thought was pretty fun, but now Loki I think will be one of the strongest just add this card as a backup plan card you can possibly add. It's a 3/5. It has great stats. You immediately draw a card and get value. You don't have to sacrifice the cards in your hand or your game plan. You know, there are times where you're probably just going to play this like on turn 5, and then you just get 2 cheap random cards that your opponent has. Maybe you find a counter, maybe you find something like that. Maybe you just have a bad hand and you just want to play this and try and draw some additional cards to get things flowing. I think that this is a really cool change. It keeps the same flavor that Loki had, this like ability to use your opponent's cards for a cheaper cost. And there's some good and some downside to that. There were decks that was pretty bad to Loki against, but now instead of replacing your whole hand and kind of going all in, you just kind of start becoming their deck for the rest of the game. I am really excited to see what happens with this card. I don't think it makes the card worse, but maybe it makes the card like more okay to play against. It gives people who wanted to, I guess, more play Loki to get that kind of like randomness of playing different cards, similar to how people like to play Erisham. You probably still play this in Erisham pretty often. You know, if you could just play it on 2 and then you just have an extra energy and then you're just drawing cards like your opponent does. I think you can kind of just play this anywhere. I think that this is a really, really cool idea that they had to completely change Loki, but still make him this formidable card. I don't know if it'll still be too powerful. I think this card is going to be pretty crazy, but I'm super, super excited for the new Loki. The next card on the list, and another card that people have been wanting to hit again because this card has been buffed and changed and buffed and changed, is Leech. It used to be a 5/5 that removes the text of on-reveal cards in your opponent's hands, to a 4/4 that removes the text of all 6-cost card in your opponent's hands. So I think this probably kills Leech. There's going to be some situations where certain decks really need a couple of 6-cost cards. The way that it says 6-cost cards makes me think that maybe it doesn't work on Mockingbird, but I might be incorrect on that. I think it would be cards that cost 6 as opposed to 6-cost cards, so it should hit things like Mockingbird. Mockingbird's probably the best card that you can hit with this, but usually you're going to probably want to have that card down in the field at this point. I don't expect Leech to be very good. 4/4 is a pretty weak stat line. I do think that it's fine to just kind of give put Leech down and be aside for a little bit. I think that a lot of people really, really dislike this card, so you know, just kind of removing it for the meta for a little bit. Some of the devs said it's a tricky card for us to land where we want. The last change proved to have enough overlap with other effects to avoid leaning on Leech as an all-purpose answer. However, the function has primarily been a tool for letting decks brute force their strongest stuff through defenses. So basically turning off things like Rogue and Shang-Chi to allow you to just play your giant cards at will. Totally agree with that. I'm excited to see what Leech looks like now that it's going to be kind of gone, and to see where the meta emerges from there. The next one, another big offender, especially in Erisham decks, is Dr. Octopus. Used to be a 5/10 that would pull as many cards as they could from their opponent's hand to fill the side. Now it's just going to pull 1. It's a 4/8 that will pull the lowest power card from your opponent's hand to their side of this location. And this is an interesting one, because what I like about it is that it's like weird. Like the card is sometimes going to be stronger than the old Doc Ock, because let's say sometimes you like when there's only one spot available, then you know you're going to pull the lowest power card and maybe kind of like jam them up. But obviously, like being able to pull your opponent's entire hand was a very frustrating and not very fun thing because you can't really interact with it, right? So people generally just didn't like that about Doc Ock. Now the amount of disruption it has is lowered. I can still definitely see this being in, used in just about any junk deck if you're just trying to pull out cards of your opponent's hand and clog up lanes. 4-8 is a very respectable stat line. It can maybe just kind of go into like a good cards style deck. I'm really interested to see what happens here with Dr. Octopus and see where it can find its way in the meta. There are several 410s that are available, so if you're just looking for power, Dr. Octopus might not be the best answer there. But if you're just looking for another junky style strong card, I think Dr. Octopus is good without having that really feels bad moment. I think that what I'm seeing a lot, especially in these first 3 changes, is that they're trying to adjust it so that these cards are still good, maybe with the exception of Leech, but they still have a very solid power level, and they're not as feels bad. They're really kind of going for a vibe base nerf. It seems on these last 3 to not necessarily say, hey, these are the most powerful and the most cube efficient cards in the game, but hey, it sucks to play against these cards. We get it. We play the game too. We're going to make some changes, and that's what I like here with Dr. Octopus. I'm really excited to see what happens with this card, because Dr. Octopus, it's always been in a weird spot. It's never really been super popular. There were times with their magic decks where they would use magic played on 5, so then you get 2 turns, but then with Nocturne and having all these moving cards, you can kind of swap things out and make it still work. But I'm really, really excited to see what happens with Dr. Octopus. I'm going to be having some fun brewing with it. And I think they did a good job of getting rid of the feels bad, but still making this be a card you can consider putting in decks. Next one is going to be White Widow, specifically the Widow's Kiss. Goes from -4 power to -3 power. Pretty simple change. I think the White Widow is just, man. White Widow forever has just been the 2-cost card that if you are missing a 2-cost card, you do it. Jeff and Quake have kind of been the ones who were kind of close and in competition there. After Professor X went away, Jeff kind of, went away as that like secure option, and White Widow has just kind of emerged as kind of the end all be all, the best of them, I would say. So I think that this is in general a pretty good change to just pull the power level down. I think they could have went -2 even. I think that, -4 to -3 doesn't really matter. Really, a lot of the strength of like White Widow is getting that spot taken away, not necessarily, because a lot of times it gets filled anyway. So this will be a very small tick on it. Maybe some other 2-drops kind of fight for the space, but realistically, we'll see. Next one is gonna be Blob. That gets changed again. The dial on it is now how much power it can gain. It's gonna go from 15 to 13 as the power level where it is going to stop. So it's really interesting. It says one of the winningest cards in Arishem decks has continued to be Blob. Specifics of that gameplay aren't very satisfying because Blob tends to end up very close to 617, which does just kind of feel unfair a lot of time when your opponent plays Blob. It's like, oh, okay, 17 power in turn 5. I guess I'm losing that lane. Hopefully I can win a different one. So we're gonna move it down to 13. I think this is fine. I think that with like Arishem kind of losing Doc Ock, and Arishem's play rate has already gone down like crazy. Like now that everyone has access to Cassandra Nova, Arishem has already kind of been quelled, it seems like, quite a bit, and I don't see many people complaining about it anymore. But now it's going to lose as powerful of a Loki. It's going to lose a little bit of power on Blob. It's going to lose Leech. It's going to lose all these different things. So I think that Arishem is probably going to be really, really kept in check. I don't know if they had to make this change to Blob. Again, it just further makes Blob feel like something you just never want to play in other decks outside of Thanos and Arishem, which is kind of already where it was. I don't know if it gets cut, and maybe that's okay if it brings down the power level but doesn't get cut. I think it probably hurts Thanos more than Arishem, but I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. I don't know about this change. I think it's very okay. I don't think it's a huge deal. I don't think it's going to change things too terribly much. Maybe just kind of get Blob more in tune with where they want their big, powerful 6-power card to be. War Machine changes from a 4-6 to a 4-7. Probably not going to do too much. War Machine just doesn't really do enough, it feels. If they're going to change War Machine, I would love to change them to a 3-cost card. I think that the problem is you usually want to War Machine on 5, and if you have to squeeze in a 1-drop with it to make it worth it, whereas there's a lot more 2-drop cards that you could fit in with a 3-drop on turn 5 that would feel better, I would say. So I think they should either make War Machine like a 5-9 as opposed to like going up to a 4-7, or make it like a 3-5 is where I would prefer to see it. I don't really see this pushing the needle. Like, there's plenty of other 4-7s that can do things like Proxima Midnight, or even like Stegron moved up to 4-7. You still haven't seen that card anywhere. I see this as being inconsequential, but maybe it's important. We'll see. Another big one, Apocalypse. So Apocalypse got pulled back from 6-8 to 6-6, and now they are reverting that. This card was really good right when Proxima Midnight came out, and I think they were just trying to kind of like ease away at the power level of just making that big Apocalypse, or kind of Dracula discarding the Apocalypse, just be a little bit more in line. What happened is that just all these other powerful decks came in, and then this card was forgotten about, and now it's never really made its way back. Now there's some cool things with like Moon Knight that's coming back, so seeing Apocalypse go back to its original stat line I think is really, really great. I'm excited to play some OG discard. I think OG discard with like MODOK, Proxima, Mobius, all these different, or Morbius, and all these different things is a pretty fun play style that a lot of people have been missing from Marvel Snap for a while. So having Apocalypse come back, I think that's really good. I like the additional power. I don't know if it's going to be strong enough, just the 2 power on the 1 card, but, Moon Knight makes me a little bit excited. Maybe there's some more cards coming out in the future, but either way, just reverting this nerf is really good, especially for, like, probably lower pool players, making that original discard deck a little bit more competitive with other pool 1, pool 2 decks. Well, that's it. Those are the cards. I hope that you enjoyed this. Let me know down in the comments if you want to see more of me kind of doing my quick little breakdowns of different OTAs. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Binks, binks, binks. I hope you like the vibe. Binks, binks. Like and subscribe. Binks, binks. I hope you like the vibe. Binks, binks. Like and subscribe.